Coming up on BCN today, a 13-year-old is hit by a car on University Drive. Plus, the city of Lethbridge kicks off Matey Week with a flag raising. And Alberta Premier Jason Kenney defends his idea of pulling the province out of the federal pension plan.
Your Canada. Your Southern Alberta. Your stories. From our studios in the heart of Lethbridge, it's BCN Today with Jeanette Roche.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday. A 13-year-old is recovering in hospital after being hit by a car on Wednesday. It happened over the noon hour yesterday at University Drive and Gary Drive West near Father Leonard Van Tegem School. Police say the lights for the north-south traffic on University Drive had turned green when the young pedestrian ran across the road in front of oncoming southbound traffic. The teen was transported to the hospital, but injuries are not life-threatening and no charges have been laid. A Lethbridge Diversity and Inclusive Charter will be signed today. Lethbridge residents and businesses are being encouraged to sign it and commit to fighting racism and discrimination. It's an initiative by the Lethbridge Diversity and Inclusion Alliance. City Council this week unanimously agreed to sign the charter on the city's behalf. The signing will take place at 12:15 today at the Multicultural Center. The Alberta government has announced a number of highway projects across the province that will be receiving funding in the 2019 budget. But unfortunately, there was no money set aside for the twinning of Highway 3 in the Taber area. However, construction of a new pedestrian bridge on Scenic Drive over Highway 3 is in the book.
What we're doing in the city of Lethbridge is we're trying to complete our cycling and pedestrian pathways. One of the obstacles, and we've been talking to the provincial government, is the bridge over Highway 3 on Scenic Drive. So you might have noticed that the pedestrian way has been blocked off. It doesn't meet standards. And so now we'll be able to go ahead and complete that pathway so that those cycling and wishing to access our city can use that bridge safely. Primarily for those not only recreational use, but those who use bicycles for their regular daily commutes.
The city of Lethbridge kicked off Matey Week Wednesday as the Matey flag was raised at City Hall. Matey Week is an annual celebration of Matey culture and their contributions and sacrifices to become a distinct, self-governing nation. BCN's Loris Alexander has the story.
The city of Lethbridge is home to over 10,000 Indigenous peoples, Blackfoot peoples, Métis peoples, and peoples from all over North America. So it's important for the city of Lethbridge to maintain a strong relationship not only with the citizens who are Indigenous, but also with the organizations that are in the city to support and serve them.
Mayor Spearman said it was an honor to stand with the Métis people and celebrate the hard work of the Métis ancestors.
Today's a day when we do honor the legacy of the Métis people who were part of the original founders of the city of Lethbridge. It's important to continue to tell that story to future generations. Make sure that those of Métis heritage are not forgotten. So this week we'll be flying the Métis flag. We're holding a reception here today at City Hall, and there are Métis artifacts on display.
Louis Riel devoted and sacrificed his life defending the rights of Métis people. Riel's legacy continues to resonate across the homeland.
We're celebrating Louis Riel. Louis Riel was hanged on November the 16th. So Métis Week always centers around that date. And we're very fortunate here that the city is so gracious in letting us raise our flag and having our reception here in the atrium at City Hall.
The Métis Nation of Alberta has declared the week surrounding November 16th as Métis Week. The week is devoted to commemorating the sacrifices of the Métis who continue to strive toward rights and recognition as a distinct nation. For Bridge City News, I'm Loris Alexander.
Thank you, Loris. This week, the National Association of Food Banks and Food Banks Canada released Hunger Count 2019. a report on hunger and food bank use in Canada. And despite signs of an improving economy, we are still seeing more than 1 million visits to food banks across Canada every month.
Here locally, we have about 3,000 individuals between our two major food banks that are accessing services monthly. And while it seems like we are making some progress with women and children, we've seen a dramatic shift in the client base that we're serving to see a lot more single adults who are living alone in need of our services. What we're finding is that a lot of the safety nets that are here to catch people when they are having those trying times are just not working, and there's quite a few holes in them.
Food Banks Canada is advocating for making single, low-income adults a priority in all future poverty reduction policy measures. A 41-year-old man is being treated for a dog bite injury after a police canine unit bit him. Lethbridge police charged Chris Allen Peterson following an incident where the critical incident response team was called out early Wednesday morning after receiving a report that Peterson had breached conditions of a no-contact order. Police located him at a residence near the 600 block of 4th Street South. He refused to comply with police and barricaded himself inside. Just before 5 a.m., Peterson left the home armed with a knife, but was apprehended by a canine unit. Peterson is being treated for injuries and is facing a number of charges. A proposal to build a biomedical waste incinerator near a southern Alberta village has been rejected after area residents raised concerns about emissions from the plant. There was loud applause from about 100 people on hand Tuesday night when the council in Bicycle, about 75 kilometers northeast of Calgary, unanimously voted down a land use bylaw that would have allowed the incinerator to proceed. The plant would have created 20 full-time jobs for workers who would incinerate 8,000 tons of waste every year, including human tissue. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is due to sit down with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau today and will likely push for a pharmacare program and dental care coverage. Re-elected NDP Peter Julian says it won't be easy trying to get the Liberals to adopt some NDP priorities, but Julian says his fellow New Democrats are up to the task of getting their way. Singh's support is needed by the Liberals if they are to carry out their minority mandate. Meanwhile, Trudeau met with Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet Wednesday as he looks for support for his new minority government. Blanchet made it clear that he would not be supporting demands from Western provinces. The Liberals and the Bloc agree on issues such as climate change and the federal carbon tax. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney says this is a new moment in our history, saying the province has never faced a more hostile situation coming from the central government. Kenney is defending his idea that Alberta could pull out of the federal pension plan. He says Ottawa and some provinces are unfairly restricting Alberta's oil and gas industry with regressive laws and policy roadblocks on pipelines, despite having benefited enormously from the wealth generated in Alberta. Meanwhile, Calgary's mayor says it would be costly to give Alberta more independence from the federal government. Naheed Nenshi says wresting control from Ottawa over things like pension plans and policying would have come with a big enough benefit to justify the expense.
When I look at the things that panel is looking at, I see increased cost for managing a pension plan, increased cost for policing, and the benefits really had better be there, because at the same time we're cutting benefits to severely handicapped people, for example, but we're increasing cost in other ways. We really have to make that justification. It's actually pretty rare for us to have someone move their entire head office to Calgary, and most businesses pay the corporate taxes where their head office is. And so the corporate tax shift in Alberta doesn't really make any difference to them because they're expanding here, they're not moving here. And so what has happened that I'm concerned about is we've lost some specific tools that we had in our tool belts for attracting businesses, like the investor tax credit, the digital media credit, and so on. Those are all gone now. And so I'm worried that the kinds of businesses that were being attracted with those tools may not be attracted with simply a corporate income tax cut.
They're during the panel, they're going to do the town halls and get some feedback, but it's not adding greater certainty or clarity to what we're doing here in Alberta to be more competitive. I think it's trying to build a relationship with the federal government, but for us as a business community, it doesn't add any certainty to us to move forward.
The president of the Alberta Medical Association says legislation that would allow doctors to say no to advising patients about abortions, contraception, or medically assisted deaths isn't needed. Last week, a United Conservative introduced a private member's bill to reassert the charter-protected freedom of conscience and religion for physicians. Dr. Christine Molnert has told Health Minister Tyler Shandro that the proposed legislation is already causing anxiety among physicians and patients. She says the bill is unnecessary and could limit patient access to services. U.S. President Donald Trump claims he didn't watch the first public impeachment hearings that were held by the House Intelligence Committee yesterday. He repeated that the hearings are a witch hunt and a hoax. But he tweeted a lot of clips from these sessions and told reporters Democrats have so far failed to prove that he pressured Ukraine to investigate his rivals. Hearings continue tomorrow with America's former ambassador to Ukraine, who was fired on Trump's orders. The scene of a mass shooting is to reopen to the public today. Walmart plans to reopen its doors to its patrons in El Paso, Texas, where a gunman killed 22 people in August. Walmart has quietly hired off-duty officers at its stores in the West Texas city.
I've been there to support them in overcoming what happened on August the 3rd and giving them a sense of hope at the end of this tragic event that happened, that they can get back to some sort of normal life. At the beginning, you could see the hugs and some tears, and now you see some hugs and some smiles and laughter, and so that's really encouraging to see that they've gone through some healing process, just working together side by side. Well, I will say something like this, it takes a strong leader, and it also takes a strong group of individuals to overcome this, and I've been very fortunate to have both.
Well, we've been enjoying some above average temperatures in southern Alberta, and there's more of that on the way, including a beautiful looking weekend. Complete weather details are coming up after the break. Welcome back to our weather highlights for Lethbridge today and tomorrow. Look at that, lots of sunshine in the forecast today with a high of 7 degrees, a low of only 0 overnight, not too bad. Tomorrow, scattered clouds and a nice double-digit temperature of 12 degrees for the high. Pretty nice. Looking ahead to the weekend already, we're going to have tons of sunshine on Saturday with a high of 8 degrees. And on Sunday, we might want to pull out the barbecue. It's going to be about 14 degrees there on Sunday. Scattered clouds, lots of sunshine in the forecast again for Monday with a high of 11. A high of 5 on Tuesday with mainly cloudy skies. And flurries expected for Wednesday with a high of 2. We're not going to think about those flurries just yet. We're going to think about the beautiful weekend ahead of us. Highs and lows for this time of year. The almanac says the high temperature this time of year should be around 4 degrees and the low should be around -7. The highest temperature on this day was in 1953. It was 19 degrees. And the lowest temperature was -23. That was back in 1955. The sun rose this morning at 7:41 a.m. and will be setting this evening just before 5 p.m. Looking to the national forecast on the west coast, 11 degrees expected in Victoria and Vancouver today. Mainly cloudy skies in Victoria and a mix of sun and cloud in Vancouver. Lots of clouds up in Edmonton with a high of 0. 5 degrees in Calgary today with lots of sunshine. Flurries expected all throughout the prairies today. Saskatoon, high of -2, a high of 0 degrees in Regina, and a high of -1 in Winnipeg. Mainly cloudy skies, chance of flurries in all of those areas today. Same thing with Toronto, high of 1 degree. We're also going to be seeing some flurries in Ottawa with a high of -2, and snow is expected as well for Montreal today with a high of -2 there. Looking to the Maritimes, a mix of sun and cloud in Fredericton with a high of -1. Scattered clouds in Halifax, a high of 0 degrees. There is a chance of flurries as well in Charlottetown today with a high of 1 degree, but tons of sunshine over in St. John's, Newfoundland. They're going to be seeing a high of 2 degrees. That is your forecast. Here's a look at what's happening in your community.
Here's your Bridge City News Community Calendar. Find something unique for someone on your Christmas list at the Lethbridge Society of Glass and Old Man River Potters Guild Christmas Show and Sale from November 14th to the 16th at Westminster Community Hall. This event features works by local artists with everything from dishware to decor. Admission is free with refreshments available for purchase. The Mennonite Historical Society of Alberta is holding their fall conference on Saturday, November 16th at the Gem of the West Museum in Coaldale, beginning at 1 p.m. Hear about the struggles of conscience in the Mennonite community during the Second World War with guest speaker Conrad Stowes. Registration is $20. For more information, email kenmattis@gmail.com or call 403-929-3604. Come for a festive evening to Crossroads Counseling Shine the Light Christmas Celebration and Fundraiser on Friday, December 6th, beginning at 6 p.m. at the Coast Lethbridge Hotel. Enjoy a full-course dinner, a silent auction, and live musical entertainment featuring the Freedom House Choir, West Side Choir, and the Evangelical Free Church Praise Choir. Tickets are $50 per person and can be purchased at the Crossroads Counseling Office. And that's your Bridge City News Community Calendar.
Have you ever broken the tab off of a soda pop can while trying to open it? So frustrating. Today's daily life hack will show you how to use a folded piece of paper to give you access to the sweet, fizzy nectar. Check this out. Where do they come up with these things? And that's been your daily life hack. A vaping-related lung transplant took place at a Detroit hospital. The double lung transplant recipient has been identified as a 17-year-old boy whose organs were severely damaged by vaping.
As of last week, over 2,000 cases were reported to CDC. Close to 40 deaths were confirmed from lung failure related to this injury. It's a senseless disease process, totally preventable death. And our teenage patient would have faced certain death if it weren't for the lung transplant.
Working closely and noting that his lungs were not going to recover, working with the lung transplant team, we worked to get him on the lung transplant list within a week, and on October 15th, he had successful bilateral lung transplant. The patient is recovering well. It takes months to fully recover from bilateral lung transplant. Within 2 weeks, he was off the ventilator and starting to work with our physical therapy team, starting to walk again and slowly regaining his strength.
There was a study released last week that surveyed over 10,000 middle school and high school students, and 28% of high school students reported ongoing use of e-cigarettes, and 11% of middle school students reported using e-cigarettes. Of course, the favorite was flavored variety. So I believe we are just beginning to see the tip of the iceberg.
Release International is working with Christians who have been forced to flee for their lives in the Middle East and other parts of the world by persecution or war to begin their lives again in a place of safety. Release CEO Paul Robinson shares Hala's harrowing story.
أني 3 مرات اتهجرت من الموصل وكنا نشوف النساء مقتولات والخطف البنات والذبح كان بالشارع. توفت لأن انقهرت على الموصل وعلى الظروف اللي صارت بينا.
In August 2014, the Kurdish troops withdrew from Karakosh overnight, leaving those who lived there completely unprotected and afraid for their lives.
جاني خبر انه راح يدخل داعش القراقوش لانه سمعنا انه اليزيديات انخطفوا والبنات اعتدوا على البنات كثير، فهم هاي كانت غايتهم علينا احنا هم. فاني انهزمت من قراقوش، فاني كنت خايفه وطلعت من قراقوش. بعد 3 أيام دخلوا داعش القراقوش. أكيد هذا كان تنبيه من الرب إلي، لأن دائما إيد الرب وياي بالصعوبات، ونشكر الله على كل شيء.
Many Christians, including Hala, fled to Erbil in Kurdistan, a semi-autonomous region of Iraq. She lived for 2 years in a high-rise building, completely empty apart from its concrete structure. Some are still living in these empty spaces. She ended up in a caravan camp with 3,000 other Christian families.
الهيئات المسيحيين والكنائس هم اللي ساعدونا وانطونا كل شيء. الله يبارك بيهم.
The camp is now deserted. After the territorial defeat of ISIS in 2017, Hala and the other 3,000 Christian families were told to return to their homes in Mosul and Karakosh. But of course, some of them can't. The houses were burned, their livelihoods destroyed, and they are still afraid of extremism.
احنا للموصل نهائيا ما نقدر نرجع لأنه بيوتنا مدمرة بالكامل، كنائسنا مدمرة بالكامل، لكن وحرقوا بيوتنا، لكن هذا الشيء اللي أكثر أثر علينا وعلى نفسيتنا.
So people like Hala have had to go back into the city of Erbil to try to find anything they can. Despite her circumstances, Hala's face radiated with joy, especially when speaking about Jesus.
أنا مسامحة كل اللي اضطهدوني واضطهدوا الناس اللي ويايا، وأطلب من الرب إنه ينور عقولهم وينور طريقهم ويدلهم على طريق الإيمان.
The Alberta UCP government did say they would have to tighten up the budget to get the province's finances back in order. But what does that mean for Southern Alberta residents? Hal Roberts sits down with Lethbridge East MLA Nathan Newdorf to discuss. That interview is coming up after the break, so keep it right here.